Ramkrishna. I'm Ashok Vyas, founder of Haramba Art and Culture Center. Proud that our YouTube channel, Haramba Studio, is joining hands with the Institute of Spiritual Sciences in bringing this video with wealth of wisdom and inspiration. Swami Yuktatmananda graced the inauguration of Institute of Spiritual Sciences at Hindu Samaj Mandir, Mahwah, New Jersey recently. As keynote speaker, he clearly brought the significance of Bhagavad Gita and established beyond any doubt that it is relevant for one and all. Before we listen to his speech, here are few introductory outlines about Swamiji. Swamiji joined the monastic order of Sri Ramkrishna in Bangalore in India in 1978. And he was ordained a monk in 1988. For more than a decade, he served at the Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya in Coimbatore, which is a major educational center of the order. Leading its Polytechnic College later, after being in charge of the Ramakrishna Institute of Moral and Spiritual Education, a teacher training college of the order's Mysore Center for more than 4 years, Swamiji was sent by the order in January 2002 to the Advaita Ashram of Mayavati in the Himalayas, where he served for 3 years as the editor of Prabuddha Bharat, Awakening India, the English language monthly journal on religion and philosophy published by the order. It was 2006, month of May. Swami Yuktatmananda was assigned by the order to be the minister of the newly accepted branch, the Vedanta Center of St. Petersburg, Florida, where he served more than a year and a half in December 2007, following the passing away of Swami Adishwaranandaji. Swami Yuktatmananda was selected by the order to be the minister and spiritual leader of the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center of New York. Swami Yuktatmananda's writings appear regularly in the monthly announcements of the center. On invitation, he lectures at religious, educational, and cultural institutions in the United States and abroad. And it was such an occasion where devotees and sadhakas got to hear Swamiji at Hindu Samaj Mandir, Mahwah, and it was a befitting address at the inauguration of Institute of Spiritual Sciences.
Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande paramananda madhavam. Salutations to Sri Krishna, the embodiment of supreme bliss, by whose grace the mute become eloquent and the lame scale mountains. Friends, I'm very happy to be here as part of the inauguration of the Institute of Spiritual Sciences at Hindu Samaj. And I understand from Dr. Chokshi that there are plans to conduct classes on the Bhagavad Gita to disseminate these spiritual teachings to everyone, especially the younger generation. I would say that's a very laudable venture. Sri Krishna himself says,
just take 1 second. Okay.
Sri Krishna himself says, whoever disseminates these teachings of mine with devotion to me, I am extremely pleased with them. So on this occasion, I thought I would share with you a few teachings of the Gita. First of all, some people think that the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, these texts are only for some elite few, not for people like you and me. We have to dispel these wrong notions from our mind. The Bhagavad Gita has teachings for every one of us. In the meditation verse on the Gita, Dhyana Shloka, you have this important verse which our boys chanted some time back. The Gita is compared to, now first the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the foundational texts of Hinduism. The Upanishads, incidentally, are part of the Vedas. The quintessence of the Upanishads is what the Gita is. Sarvo Upanishado Gavo. Gavo means cow. All the Upanishads are compared to a cow. Dogda Gopala Nandana. Sri Krishna is the milker who milks the cow called the Upanishads. And what is the Gita? Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat. The ambrosial teachings of the Gita are compared to the milk of the cow, which is compared to the Upanishads. So the Gita contains teachings which form the essence of all the Upanishads. There are many Upanishads, 108 Upanishads, but we consider 10 major Upanishads on which Sri Shankaracharya has commented. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the Chandogya Upanishad, these are voluminous Upanishads. So it's difficult to go through all of them. Of course, if you make a resolve to go through, we can definitely go through. We can systematically undertake a study of the Upanishads. But the Bhagavad Gita is considered to be the quintessence of the Upanishads. Whatever the Upanishads teach, we find in the Bhagavad Gita. The meditation verse continues. Sri Krishna is the milker of the milk, the ambrosial teachings of the Gita from the cow, Upanishads. Now, what is this milk meant for? The milk is meant for the calf. The calf is Arjuna. Sri Krishna gave all these teachings to Arjuna in 18 chapters of the Gita. In fact, the 17 chapters, the first chapter consists of Arjuna's philosophizing on why he would not fight. Sri Krishna begins his teaching in the second chapter of the Gita. So, Arjuna is the calf that drinks the milk. But we all know that not all the milk produced by the cow is consumed by the calf. There are other consumers of the milk that is produced by the cow. Who are the other consumers here of the milk of the Gita? Sudhir Bhukta. Sudhi. Di is a Sanskrit word which means buddhi. Buddhi is the seat of discrimination. That is the determinative faculty in our personality. That is the decision-making faculty in our personality. It is superior to the mind. When we have to understand the mind, we need to rise above the mind. When we have to discipline the mind, we need to stand superior to the mind. As long as we remain one with the mind and the body, any kind of discipline of the mind is out of the question. So we rise above the mind to be able to understand it. We should rise above the mind to be able to subject it to some discipline and then control it. So buddhi is a seat of certainty, shraddha, discipline, discrimination. Discrimination is viveka. That's a positive quality. Discrimination between what leads us to a goal and what deflects us from the goal. As human beings, we have this highest goal to realize God, to realize our own true self, which are both the same. Discriminating between what leads us to the goal and what lets us remain bound to the world.
Swamiji, can you use these ones? They can't hear you.
Discrimination between what leads us to God and what binds us to the world is called Viveka. People who have this higher goal in life and strive to exercise their power of discrimination, not only exercising the power of discrimination, let's remember, Viveka, it's a quality unique to human beings. Animals don't have it. Animals live their lives in in the impulsive, instinctive plane. Not only knowing what leads us to God and what takes us away from the world, not only that is necessary, but we need to resolutely hold on to what leads us to God and what binds us to the world. That is a quality unique to human beings. Sudhir Bhokta. Sudhi. These people are the consumers of the milk of the Gita. That means people who have a higher ideal in life and who keep their sword of discrimination unsheathed all the time. They are the consumers of the milk of the Gita. Dugdam Gitamratam Mahat. That's a great ambrosial milk, which are the teachings of the Gita. And these teachings are for every one of us. Every one of us human beings who have a higher ideal in life, the ideal of God realization, and strive hard to practice spiritual disciplines regularly, strive hard to exercise the power of discrimination, Viveka, strive to do work as worship. All this we learn from the Gita. We are all consumers of this milk of the Gita. The Gita speaks of Karma Yoga, doing work as worship. It speaks of Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. It speaks of Raja Yoga, the yoga of meditation, 6th chapter. It speaks of Jnana Yoga, which begins in the 2nd chapter. We may think this yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, all this is just beyond me. It's not for me now. All this can be reserved for the evening of our life. Now is the time to see the world, to see what the world has to offer. That's what people think. People get scandalized when they see that children showing inclination to such spiritual teachings, children show inclination to study the teachings of the Gita, or visit a Vedanta center, a Vedanta society. But we don't need to be concerned. There is a beautiful verse attributed to Vyasa, Veda Vyasa. Ye ichchati harim smartum vyaparanta gaterapi samudre shantakallole snatum ichchati durmatihi. A person who thinks he will begin to think of God when all his responsibilities in the world are over is like the person who's standing on a seashore, thinks that he will take a dip in the ocean when all the waves have subsided. The waves are never going to subside. If you're keen on having a dip in the ocean, you need to have a dip in the ocean in the midst of the waves. Similarly, when all the responsibilities in the world are over, that means the day of retirement. But on the day of retirement, the mind doesn't synonymously, simultaneously begin to think of God. Whatever we have fed the mind with till the day of retirement, the mind will hold on to only that. So, the person who wants to begin to think of God after all his responsibilities are over is like that person who thinks he will have a dip in the ocean when all the responsibilities, all waves have subsided. So the idea is, learn to think of God in the midst of your responsibilities. Sri Ramakrishna would say, hold on to God's feet with one hand and with the other, go about your worldly responsibilities. And Sri Ramakrishna continues, when you have more leisure, you hold on to God with both your hands. You hold on to the lotus feet of God with both your hands. Sri Krishna gives this important teaching in the Gita. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhya cha. Therefore, at all times, try to remember me and fight. Fight was Arjuna's dharma. But not all the milk is consumed by the calf itself. There are other consumers of milk. So what are the implications of fight in people like you and me? Fight the battle of life. Life is full of struggle. Fight the battle of life, remembering me. Think of God. And Sri Krishna says, Learn to do your work as worship. When work is not offered as worship, it becomes a source of bondage. But when work is done as worship, that helps to free you from bondage. Sri Krishna makes an important promise. There are a good number of such promises in the Gita. He says in the 18th chapter, Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. By whom all this is pervaded, that means that supreme reality called Brahman, by whom all this is pervaded, and from whom all this has emerged. By worshipping that supreme reality, by one's own work, swakarmana tamabhyarcha, learn to worship the supreme reality called God. By your own duties, your own work, you attain perfection. Siddhim vindati manava. These are all teachings in the Gita. The Gita also speaks of sattva, rajas, tamas, three qualities. Briefly, tamas stands for inertia, rajas stands for activity, sattva stands for calmness in the midst of activity. So the journey is from tamas, inertia, through rajas, activity, to through sattva, which is calmness in the midst of activity, and transcending sattva is God realization. And in the 17th and 18th chapters of the Gita, Sri Krishna speaks of a number of qualities, different kinds of work, different kinds of worker, different kinds of knowledge, different kinds of happiness, different kinds of austerity, different kinds of charity, all based on this threefold classification: sattvic work, rajasic work, tamasic work. Sattvic worker, rajasic worker, tamasic worker, sattvic happiness, rajasic happiness, tamasic happiness. This explanation of different kinds of work, knowledge, happiness is for all of us to go over, become reflective, reflect on what kind of worker, what kind of work I am doing, and try to do better. Tamas to rajas to sattva. So these are the things we find in the Gita. We don't need to be scared about reading the Gita. We need to have a dip in the ocean in the midst of all the waves. And we'll find once we start studying the Gita, we'll not be able to study it in original Sanskrit unless we have a good grounding in Sanskrit. But there are very good translations, eminent translations of the Gita that are available. When we read these translations, one of these translations, even without a commentary, we'll see how there are a very good number of inspiring teachings which can help us to mold our lives. And when we take to these teachings seriously, let these teachings permeate our body, mind, and senses, we understand how we qualitatively undergo a change in our life, how our life is becoming more and more meaningful. The Gita has 18 chapters. One can never say, I have studied the Gita completely, because we keep on studying it over and over again. The more we study, the deeper becomes our understanding. The more we study, the more we inspire ourselves with the need to practice spiritual disciplines, to bring God in the midst of our everyday life. And we'll find our own lives becoming, leading to fulfillment. So when we do it as parents, we'll be a role model to our own children. So instead of the children waiting for the evening of their life, it's better we try to practice it ourselves. So we'll be a role model for the children. And reading the Gita, reading the Upanishads is not something to be afraid of. And everyone who studies the Gita is not going to become a monk or a nun. So we can disabuse ourselves of this wrong notion also. So once again, I feel very happy that this initiative has been taken up by this Hindu Samaj Mandir, and you have a new unit that was inaugurated today, Institute of Spiritual Sciences at Hindu Samaj. I'm very happy once again to be part of this inauguration, and I pray to God the Almighty to bless this endeavor with success and with all blessings. Thank you very much.